have a very eminent panel of experts over here, artificial intelligence experts. And the topic, as you know, uh, is the use of generative AI in regulatory compliance and the management of risk. Ever since the release of ChatGPT, you know, there has been a lot of talk about how artificial intelligence is increasingly being used for compliance tasks and processes, and how Gen AI can be harnessed in this. And is it making the task easier for institutions and companies? And what is the return on investment from that? So let me first, as a journalist, let me ask a very overarching question on this from Sarath. What do you think? How far have Indian companies, you know, and institutions progressed in the use of AI in compliance, and in risk management? And do you think that we can fully rely on AI models for accuracy and error-free interpretation of the frameworks?
Very long question, but I'll try to keep it short. I'm very excited with where AI is and where AI is going. Not only with the disruptive OpenAI, this thing, but AI has been something, whether it is reinforced learning or any kind of CNNs or RNNs, this has been something that has been going on for a long, long time. What OpenAI has done for us is showed new possibilities. And it caught attention like crazy, and I think that's wonderful. Over the last 2.5, 3 years, we've seen AI being used and the changes happening in the industry so drastically that this is one of the shortest change cycles that I have seen in my career. Every 6 months, there's a new thing that's happening. And I think that's an amazing outcome that we are seeing, and that's where the excitement is. Now, how have we adopted to it? I think we've seen multiple situations where adoption has been really driven first by consumers. Just the excitement of saying, I don't have to go to Google search, I can do something on ChatGPT. That is where it started. Then we realized, oh, data is very stale. Then we saw each one of the GPTs saying, I can now do real-time searches also. These are all problems that people are facing, very short feedback cycles, and innovation happening very quickly. And in the industries, various industries have used this. Anywhere there is a lot of knowledge, a lot of connections, a lot of things to make sense of, has been one of the places that GenAI has found very strong use cases. Compliance, regulation is one area like that. If you think about compliance and regulation, there are so many compliances that could be relevant for a particular product that we're building. How are we sure that everything is taken care of? A lot of times it's not possible. A product manager defining something might not be able to figure out all the compliances on day one. An engineering team building something might not be able to figure out everything. But having AI which can possibly give some guidances and allow people to understand 80–90% of this thing is going to reduce the manual effort needed to understand and check compliances, and hence allow people to build products much easier, earlier, with proactive interventions rather than reactive interventions that are blocking releases or creating customer distrust for the organization. AI has moved in multiple ways. I think textual has been a brilliant use case. Video, especially if you look at how image processing and image generation have been seen in terms of growth, that's been amazing. I can now give my bill and it will extract data extremely clearly. Video generation has been another place where we've seen very strong use cases. Early days, about 4 years back, when I was using it in some places, advertising and marketing was one of the places we thought was a very good use case. We started with that. I think every area now, there is some AI that everybody is trying to incorporate. I think that's a very disruptive, in a good way, disruptive springboard that this that this industry has in being able to take the world in a completely different direction. So I'm very excited about it. Can we trust it completely? No. There is still human intelligence that's absolutely critical. An AI can work on things that it has been trained on. We've seen big companies like Google and others have challenges with biases in the training data impacting the outcomes very badly. Huge stories about those. Human intervention is needed to get the right data, representative data, ensure that there is no biases. So humans define how AI is working, at least at this point in time. It is unsupervised, but it is definitely something that humans need to tailor, tune, and control at some level. And during operations, it is definitely something that can reduce the human um, effort with better effectiveness and efficiency. So I believe that human plus AI is the current state that I would really depend upon, at least in business context.
Thank you for that.
Sorry for the longish answer.
No, it was a comprehensive kind of an answer, I think. So Anuj, yeah, let me come to you. You have a product, and your customers are banks and FIs. When we look at so what has been your experience so far, and how has your product been, how has it actually reduced the time for compliance and improved the transparency within RBI rules?
Sure. So first of all, thank you everyone for joining us for this particular panel. And thank you for the question. So basically, the experience of mine, so we have been in this space for the last 3 years. We have been trying to build AI agents specifically for risk, audit, and compliance teams for banks, mutual funds, AMCs, and so on, right? So there are these frameworks that SEBI has published, RBI has published. Recently, RBI also published a free framework specifically for evaluation of these sort of models, which are not supervised or generative in nature, right? So in terms of the advantages that we have seen, particularly when it comes to supplying those sort of agents within RBI norms, are 3 things. First, time reduction in your SOP type of tasks. Which tasks you have to do on a daily basis, which are repetitive and monotonous in nature, right? But there's a proper SOP or a documentation attached to it. The good thing with Agentic AI framework is that if you are able to efficiently use the memory there, efficiently use the vector embeddings, you will be able to come up with such model that can also help you figure out, let's say, proactive plus the reactive measures of that particular rules that has been set up by, let's say, these sort of regulators, right? Now, what we have seen, like the time reduction, let's say a compliance officer used to work around 70 hours per week. With our AI agents, they only need to work 10 hours per week. They can focus on other sort of ad hoc projects, or they can also basically, do some sort of R&D when it comes to like setting up compliance principles for the organizations and so on, right? So the good thing with compliance and audit when it comes to BFSI sector is the data here is closed-ended, right? RBI, SEBI, IRDAI, PFRDA, MCA, NSC, NPCI, NSDL, CDSL, all of these, the regulations that they publish or the circulars that they publish, they have a starting date, right? So you can control hallucinations of a model here. You can control how faithful is your model when it comes to following your instructions. You can control the drift prevention of a particular model, right? So that's why compliance and risk space in BFSI is one of the, you can say, leading spaces where AI can actually impact something, right? Because if you are able to save 60 hours per week of a compliance officer, you are allowing that compliance team to actually work on things which actually matter, right? So that was the first thing. A second thing is particularly when it comes to automation and increasing the productivity of people, right? So when we used to talk to the CCOs and the team of different banks, mutual fund, exchanges, and so on, so one same sort of answer that I used to hear from everyone was that the evidence preparation or the reports that needs to be sent to these regulators, how do I know what's the format for that, Like SEBI, sometimes SEBI gives directly the format in their annexures. Okay, this is, you need to fill that, and then you can set it across as an evidence. In case of RBI, sometimes they get a little cryptic, right? There, even the CCOs and the compliance officers don't know what exactly I need to submit to the RBI, or do I even need to submit anything, right? So our AI agent basically can help you make templates for that, so that you are always in that mindset of doing the horizon scanning, right? Even if it's not required, you're sending it to the regulator, right? So you are just telling the regulator that, on all of those norms, we are maintaining a proper readiness system in place for us, right? So second thing is basically increasing the productivity. And the third thing, which I really don't want to say right now, but it would be true in the next 2 to 3 years, would be basically cutting down people in the compliance domain, audit domain, and risk domain. We have already seen that in action for some of our heavyweight clients, right? That they used to hire around 25 compliance analysts per year. With that tool in place, they only need to hire one. They used to hire a team of around 20 junior compliance officers. With that tool, they only need a couple, right? As of now, as of date, as of 2025, December, a human needs to be in the loop, right, when it comes to these AI workflows and AI technologies. But let's say 2 to 4 years from now, uh, there would be some sort of agent which would operate autonomously as your compliance officer. And that day is not really far, right? Senior leaders from OpenAI are also an investor in us. So what we also try to do is we also try to do these sort of R&D when it comes to closed source models as well. Anyone can build on top of open source models like Llama, Mistral, any sort of open source model that is available, DeepSeek, and so on. But when it comes to closed source of models like Claude by Anthropic, or GPT-4o by ChatGPT, right? You don't really have the access to the weights and neurons, right? So the experimentation that we have been doing with OpenAI Sandbox is that the autonomicity of a compliance officer, basically AI compliance officer coming into this picture, it's around 2 to 3 years from now. So these are the 3 things that I think can and is helping BFSI institutions as of now.
Right. Yeah, Mr. Kamble, from the point of view of the banks, how can banks build a responsible AI governance framework, that will be in sync with regulatory expectations, while still, innovations can go on within AI, Gen AI?
Thank you so much, the team, for inviting us. First of all, good evening, everyone. The responsible AI, if you look at, it is being fair, being ethical, okay, being unbiased. So I would go with the 3-layer approach in this. Okay, one is to have a very secure architecture in place. So we will have all the guardrails in place, all the communication channels will be secured. Even the data which is being used, processed, and transferred will be secure. And so apart from the security architecture, there is something called as a model risk. Okay, so the moment you start having a risk management for the model, okay, how to use that model, how can we stop or prevent that model being poisoned, okay? So the model risk management is another layer. And third one, there is having an acceptable usage guideline, okay, at both ends. Because if you look at the generative AI is, at this point of time, we all are consumer for the generative AI, okay? For some reason, right? Some of them are using Perplexity, some of them using ChatGPT, some of them using Gemini, okay, or Grok. But that's from the end user. So end users are always there in the corporate. So the way we have the acceptable usage for them, at the same time for a corporate side, the business side, okay, there should be an acceptable usage guideline for the AI should be in place. So with this 3-layer, we can probably can have the responsible AI implemented by keeping the innovation in done. See, what is happening is currently, if you look at the problem of the industry is we are evaluating various models and the AI solutions without having any control guidelines in place. Okay, we are not even thinking of whether we are putting production data into non-production environment just for a POC. That is also on a vendor's cloud. okay, which is used. Because, for example, there are many use cases where you cannot have the sanitized or the masked data. For example, if you are looking at the call center use cases, okay, where you need to see whether the AI is helping you to call the customer in a real time, you can't mask the data and send it, right? You need to have. So that's why this particular requirement is very disruptive. So you need to have some acceptable usage guideline, so it's people, process, technology again coming in picture to be, to be implemented as a part of the controls and have that responsible AI implemented.
Absolutely. In fact, RBI has already released some kind of a framework, some kind of rules for that, preliminary kind of rules for AI. But what kind of gaps do you see in the framework? Governance gaps.
So, see, probably I don't see any gaps at this point of time. It is pretty early to say any gaps because I don't think that anyone has fully implemented AI yet, okay? We are also just embark our journey for the AI. We drafted our AI risk management policy and the AI policy for the bank, okay? And we have started our journey. But, the moment we go forward, probably we'll come out with the, gas. And specific from the governance point of view, we see, there is a scope for the government. For example, there is something, called as HITL, the human in the loop. But at the same time, you also have something as a human on the loop. Okay, so human on the loop would come in picture the moment you see any errors or the gaps in coming in.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so HITL and HOTL would be very important part of the governance which we need to keep in mind, okay, when it comes to the gap identification.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, Sarath. So from the payments point of view, as we were talking offline, we have seen a lot of problems with some of the payment platforms and some of the banks in terms of compliances, the way they are onboarding customers. Where does Gen AI come into this? How can we harness Gen AI in order to plug these kinds of lapses which are happening? And payments has a huge impact on everyone,
Sure. So I'll go with what I learned from the regulator RBI. I believe they're one of the most effective and forward-thinking regulators. There's one line that I have learned from my engagements with RBI over a period of time. While there are regulations, while there are compliances, what is the intent of these compliances? And while we as business or product people or banks or any other business entities try to maximize our stakeholder value, our business value, the regulators are coming from one perspective. Do whatever you need to do, but how are you going to protect the customer? And being customer obsessed, being customer first, is something that RBI is very, very particular about. And for me, that's very, very powerful. I've been with Amazon. We talk about customer obsession. And we have a regulator who's talking about customer protection. In the context of that, anything that we're doing, whether it is payments, simplification of payments with DPIs like UPI and others, everything is predicated on how can the customer experience be better. And while the customer experience is good, while adoption is increasing, how can we still protect people, protect the customers? In that framework, any place that I have seen there have been challenges, it's a regulator trying to remind all of us in the industry, saying, you can grow, you can build products, you can innovate, but customer protection is sacrosanct. And hence, any of the failures that have happened are somehow where business entities have tried to do something, did not have the customer first mindset, and were focused on something else, and they faltered. Now, is it intentional? I don't believe any of this is intentional. Like I was briefly saying, when somebody is conceptualizing a product, they're thinking about a few things. What's the value? Why are we building this? So on and so forth. When a business team is taking that to scale, they're talking about how can I maximize outcomes. Through the process, there are so many compliances that the company has to, or the whole product development lifecycle and the GTM lifecycle have to take care of. It is practically not humanly possible for everybody to know everything. And like he mentioned, there are multiple regulations that could be applied.
Yes.
So in that context, it's just natural that human beings make mistakes, intentional or unintentional. And this is where I believe AI can be a huge enabler, where this can now be a proactive input to the product development lifecycle, all the way from a BRD to a PRD to even my development. Can I have compliance test cases that are generated by AI so that at least 70–80% of the mundane stuff that is a lot of overhead for human beings can be taken off, so that the humans in the loop, whether it is a product manager, business leader, engineering leader, or a developer, can think about what are those other nuances that have to be fixed. Getting this kind of a model, I believe, will let more intuitive and innovative thinking within the product development lifecycle to help the teams build better products without being non-compliant. So I believe this is what is missing, and if there is a business pressure, somebody is building products quickly, without the complete 360-degree view of compliance, it is possible people make mistakes, whether it is merchant onboarding or any of the other situations that we've seen. I believe in that sense, AI is going to be a brilliant enabler to help organizations understand compliance 360-degree and be able to build products faster that protect customers. And in India, I think that's very, very positive outcome for me.
Absolutely. Anuj, since you have a product, which is geared towards financial services companies, banks, MFs, how does your product, is it able to deal with compliances, regulatory compliances between regulators, and is there any kind of conflicting situations? Would it be able to resolve that?
Sure, that's a very specific question. So in that particular lens, so of course, RBI, SEBI, IRDAI, they have their own compliances when it comes to KYC, DPDP, cybersecurity, and so on, right? Now, there are some entities which have multiple regulators, right? So if we list down all the regulators, quasi-regulators, and governing bodies in India, there are more than 30 plus, right? In these, I'm also including governing bodies like NPCI, NSDL, CDSL, and also people like AMFI, APME, and so on, right? So those are also like governing bodies for mutual funds, portfolio managers. And so in those particular cases, how the AI differentiates between, let's say, a SEBI circular if it comes on KYC and an RBI circular comes on KYC, and let's say both are applicable to same entity. It's, let's say, a banking entity, and that same bank has a license of mutual fund with it. So SEBI KYC rules are also applicable to that particular channel or the department of that particular bank. So we have basically an agent known as actionables mapping agent. So what that actually does is it's basically deciphers clauses from each of these circulars, be it SEBI circular, RBI circular, IRDAI circular, NHB circular, any sort of circular, and then it basically makes an actionable out of it with a manner of compliance. As in, actionable could be you have to do so and so, and the manner of compliance is basically the AI telling you how to actually do that, right? So that's why what we have built, apart from NeoGPT, it's basically our own MCP, which is Model Context Protocol, known as Compliance OS. So that MCP basically acts as a connector between the client's data, that is the source of truth of the client, which could be client's internal tools like Pentana, Falcon. It could be client's Outlook servers. It could be client's organization chart, client's HRMS platforms like Darwinbox, Kika, and so on, right? So the MCP basically acts as a very simple and easy to use connector between these AI agents that we have and the internal data systems of the client. When I say data systems, it includes everything from their databases to their internal risk management tools, their internal evidence documents, the internal OneDrive folders, and so on, right? So with that sort of thing, it's able to decipher based on the taxonomy, right? So when it comes to SEBI, SEBI releases master circulars, gazettes, regulations, basic circulars. RBI releases master directions, which are then amended by these press releases, notifications that comes in the market, right? So we have trained our AI model in such a way that it's based on the regulator, it's able to conceive in a very proper manner, as in what is the taxonomy of that particular document regulatory document of that particular circular. So it knows, okay, when SEBI is publishing a master direction, it's an amalgamation of all the previous circulars related to that particular topic. But if RBI is publishing a master direction, it could happen, there could be any sort of additions, which is amendments, deletions, which are reductions, or clarifications with respect to the previous master direction that RBI has published in the past, right? So these type of taxonomies are already inbuilt in NeoGPT's, the LLM's memory. So that's how it's able to identify between the actionables and the manner of compliances for both of these regulators. And the very important thing that it also does is it will also tell you if that particular clause of a particular circular is applicable to your business unit. Like some of our clients, they are also into AMC business, they are into PMS business, they are into AIF business and so on, right? So it doesn't really matter if, what sort of circular comes in. It's totally depends on the taxonomy of that particular circular with respect to the regulator. So that's how AI is able to segregate and differentiate between couple of regulators and multiple regulators.
And following up on that, what kind of KPI should a compliance OS proof of concept have?
Sure. So KPI, when it comes to generative AI-powered compliance platforms, risk platforms, audit platforms, and so on, some of the KPIs that we have seen has been extremely useful to track for our clients is first, reduction in false positives that AI generates, right? Or you can say word error rate. Like just to give an example, let's say SEBI publishes a 2-page circular. AI went through it and generated around, let's say, 10 actionables, right? Now let's say when the human in the loop comes in, right? Out of those actionables, how many actionables are still being edited by the human itself? That means AI was not up to the mark while generating those sort of actionables. So that is basically the word error rate. If the word error rate is around 20%, that means out of 10 actionables, 8 actionables were apt, the 2 of them still need to be manually edited by the compliance officers or the compliance team. So first is the reduction in false positives. And second KPI that we measure, it's more related to the time consumption. As in, let's say, before generative AI, before using this agent, what is the end-to-end time required to do? So let's say if there's one DRHP and a compliance needs to be done on it, let's say 800 pager, so 2 junior analysts will at least take 7 to 8 working days to do that. With our AI agent coming in, or any sort of AI agent coming in for DRHP compliance, it will now take only 45 minutes to do that same sort of work with better accuracy, right? So second is basically the time consumption before and after the agent comes into the picture, right? And third KPI that we usually track is the drift of that particular agent, right? While you trust AI, right, with a human in the loop, of course, you also have to measure how AI keeps on improving based on the feedback given to it. As of now, more than 400 plus compliance officers use a tool on a daily basis. So now the RLHF that we have done, the reinforcement learning that we have done over the last 1.52 years, it has reduced a word error rate from 40% to less than 4% as of now. So third would be to basically assess the drift of that particular LLM. These 3 are the KPIs that I think needs to be tracked when any sort of CRM-based generative AI tool is being evaluated.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Kamble, so banks move money and we have to be on our guard all the time. How do you think GenAI can be used as a preventive kind of a tool for, in order to ensure that, that they can test for attacks scenarios? Can we kind of use that to be preemptive rather than preventive? Sorry, preventive and preemptive.
So I think your question is
risk management, yeah, from the point of view of risk management.
How do we handle the red teaming or any kind of assessment, right?
Right.
Correct. So thing is, generative AI, as we know the concept, okay, it keeps on generating the details or the required data for us. The way we start asking the queries, it's nothing but it's our image. Okay, the chat GPT or any generative AI is our image, what we want, it gives us. So for red teaming also, if we have certain references, like for example, there's a MITRE attack, Atlas kind of a framework. Okay, if we start using the TTPs in the generative AI, basis on that we can generate the various attack scenarios, okay, to perform the assessment. So not only that, okay, we can also ensure whatever the findings we have already received, okay, as a part of the any purple teaming or the red teaming assessment or internal security assessment, we can just give those as an input, okay, and see the compliance coming out, quickly. Okay, and I believe the moment you start giving the your data very precisely and keeping your RAG very intact along with the trained LLM models, you will see the precise level of data coming out. Okay, with a very less hallucinated data. Okay, so red teaming, I strongly believe that I think there must be certain solutions already in place that where the attacks can be planned. Okay, the predictive analysis can be done, before even we hit. For example, I was just talking to one of my HR person, not related to the red teaming assessment, but at least to give a behavioral, user data. Because most of the times what happens that user, whoever is trying to leave the company, he would start sending his personal data outside of the organization before he put up the papers. And his behavior will change, his browsing pattern will change. Correct? All that data can be collected together, okay, and with the help of certain AI mechanisms, okay, we can give the predictive analysis to the HR, saying that this is the asset to the organization or that this is a talent which we might lose it in another 1 month or 2 months. Okay, so that's a very different use case, but this can be possible with the GenAI and the various AI platforms.
Yes, and for following up on that, can we use GenAI in order to track real-time or as close to real-time as possible violations in processes, lapses in compliance? Do you think it can be done at all
Yeah,
in order to
certainly.
catch in order to catch these things right at the time that they occur?
Correct. So, see, certainly, only thing is, whether it will be very real time, it's a, time would, decide, because GenAI is, probably the moment you start asking, it will start giving you data. So you need to give the input, then only you will get the output. So your reinforcement model should work that fastest to get that real time data. Okay. So GenAI should be coupled with the reinforcement network. Okay, to keep sending the data from various sources. Okay, and I strongly believe that's going to happen in the near future.
Fantastic. Okay, so I'm being told that the time is up, so let me quickly ask three of you, how do you see the evolution of AI, Gen AI in compliance and risk management in terms of do you think generative AI itself can kind of come up with new compliance regulations or framework? Do you think it can do that?
Right. So I see evolution of AI similar to how we evolved from a monkey, right? So first, like till last year, we had these co-pilots, right? Now we have these AI agents, and in the next 2-3 years, I think we'll have autonomous AI agents as well that can do complete set of tasks given proper, infosec requirements and so on. But evolution would be co-pilots, then AI agents, then AI autonomous, according to me.
Yeah, Sarath?
I think there will be autonomy of agents at some point in time. I'm not denying that. But the way I look at it is, we will probably be able to approach deeper problems in how we are serving customers, find different ways of solving problems for our customers, and also be more effective and efficient in doing that. And in that sense, whether it is autonomous, not autonomous, I think very clearly, if you are a business entity, it is your accountability towards the customers. It doesn't matter whether you use humans or you use AI, but that accountability to say that we will protect customers, we'll ensure we deliver delight and awesome customer obsession from our side to our customers, is only going to be enhanced with AI. whether it's with chatbots, agents, whatever else that is. While that is one direction, there is another important thing that I believe is very critical. Our current architectures are built with a very legacy mindset. They were built to operate in a particular way. They are data silos. There are operational silos. All these also have to be disrupted and changed to make sure data is all in one place. There is adequate data protection that's happening, data masking or anonymization that's happening. All these are things that have to be done by organizations to really leverage AI to the best and protect customers while doing that. I think hence, I believe there is going to be a lot of rework or re-architecture in how data is treated across the organization, how systems are built, for us to really take very strong benefits from AI. So I'm hoping companies which are able to be open to say, I don't care what we were doing in the past, we're going to do it in an AI first mode and hence change everything that we're doing, is something you will see a lot of companies starting to do, and they will succeed disruptively.
Absolutely.